5, 2026. Dear LA City Council President Marquise Harris Dawson, on behalf of a coalition of businesses and residents that constitute the Crenshaw Corridor community, we write to request that a concrete timeline and resources for fully completing Destination Crenshaw within a year be developed and announced. A year is the outside time it should take, and we hope and expect that it can be finished considerably sooner. We also request the immediate establishment of a business interruption relief fund for the merchants, entrepreneurs, churches, and property owners who have borne the disproportionate economic burden of the prolonged delays associated with the Destination Crenshaw project, and a resident relief fund for the residents of the corridor who have been most adversely affected by the prolonged construction and delays associated with this unfinished development. Destination Crenshaw was presented to this community as a transformational investment in Black culture, Black commerce, and the future of South Los Angeles. It has now been 6 years since the project broke ground and over 2 years since the promised completion date. Construction has stalled with no apparent end date in sight. The Crenshaw Corridor community embraced the vision of Destination Crenshaw, but the obstruction from the delayed construction has caused prolonged health and safety hazards, uncertainty, reduced customer access, declining revenues, disruptions, and mounting financial hardship. A broad spectrum of the community expressed their frustration over these delays and the impact they have had on the community at a standing room only July 30th town hall at Bethesda Temple Church, widely covered by the media, including ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. The burden of these unexplained delays should not rest on the shoulders of the Crenshaw Corridor community, which acted in good faith and supported this historic project. If the city fails to provide a complete and substantive response to this correspondence within 30 days of the date of this letter, the Crenshaw Corridor community reserves its right to pursue all of its rights and remedies. Sincerely, the Crenshaw Corridor community. To read the complete letter detailing all of our demands, go to our website at KBLA1580.com. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Junior show. The Jesse Jackson Junior show. The Jesse Jackson Junior show. The Jesse Jackson Junior show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA. Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's thought-provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia at the National Association of Black Journalists Conference at the Marriott Marquis Hotel. The better part of the morning with Joy Reid, Hannah Nicole Jones, as well as Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, Roland Martin, Reverend Al Sharpton, Ben Crump. Had an amazing presentation with the Wansley family. This is the family of Nolan Wells, and we learned so much more about that case on this day at NABJ. There must be several thousand African-American journalists there from around the country. And everyone, from my perspective, are sharing the exact same sentiments, that they've not quite seen an attack on the First Amendment, particularly as it relates to African-Americans, quite like we've seen it in this administration. More on that probably mostly next week. But in this thought-provoking Thursday, our conversation is always with Atiba, a former deputy executive director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. He is a strategic alliance consultant and president of Party Politics US. He worked as a TV political contributor on BNC News, In the Know with Mo, In the Heat, The Leslie Marshall Show, iHeartRadio, GovExec, 96.3 WHUR, and One America News Network. Atiba, welcome forward to the show.
Jesse, it's good to be here.
Brother, it's always good to be with you. Robert Carter III.
Yes, sir.
Set the stage for us on our conversation about this historic figure.
Well, Robert Carter III is someone that I don't think I would know about him except for his connection to my family. He was one of Virginia's wealthiest slaveholders. In 1791, after concluding that slavery violated the principles of religion and justice, Robert Carter began a legal process that ultimately freed more than 500 enslaved people. And it was one of the largest individual emancipations before the Civil War, before Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. The key thing here is that after reading his book is to learn how difficult it was. Often we hear stories when people say, well, Thomas Jefferson owned slaves and George Washington owned slaves, and they didn't free the slaves. Well, the process wasn't easy. Virginia law, property, inheritance, family resistance, and economics complicated the process, but he still figured out a way to do it. And for me, where the link is that one of the people that he freed on, because it was a gradual process that he had to go through doing it, but on January the 6th, 1800, my 5 times removed great-grandfather, Simeon Reed, was part of that manumission, as well as his wife, Jemima. And for me, when I'm thinking about this, and when we discuss Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, I feel like having a somewhat insider view in terms of that part of the story, I think is important for us to tell, because it wasn't just a process of simply freeing the people they enslaved, but why is it pertinent to today? And for me, it's pertinent to today because, as you know, I've been working on the Midterms Effing Matters campaign, and we've been talking about voter education and voter registration and all of that. But when we think about things like population and House representation, electoral votes, and presidential power, it still always keeps going back to, at least in my perspective and what I keep learning, it keeps going back to slavery. And without having these type of discussions, I think that it makes it more difficult for us to understand how to combat things like you've been talking about so eloquently and so amazingly about redistricting. And why I see that this matters today is the 3/5 compromise. Some of us may remember learning about that in high school. While it's gone and slavery was abolished, America is still debating the relationship between population, representation, and power. And how do we do that? Through the census, redistricting, gerrymandering, voting access, congressional representation, and the Electoral College.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're going into deep water today with Atiba. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
I actually live on this block, and it has affected my life because I'm a knock nurse. We have everyone coming over here that's on meth, drugs, and everything. I've called multiple times to Los Angeles County about once you leave out of here, you will see once you go down to this stop sign, it's pitch black. There's no lights over here.
No lights?
No lights on this side or that side. You have people with mental issues throwing these gates to Crenshaw. Children don't like to come outside anymore on their scooters, their bikes, their helmets, and they're speeding up and down. No regards to life at all. Like I said, I leave out of work. I'm a traveling nurse, so I take my contracts in Los Angeles County, but I may have to go to Montebello. I may have to go to Van Nuys. I leave out at 9:45 sometimes sooner, and it's someone breaking into our mailboxes because they're breaking into our mailboxes.
So now the mail's not coming.
Yeah, breaking your windows in your vehicles, and it's just really sad.
Holding them accountable. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay, are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive. Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are talking today with Atiba about Robert Carter III, a slaveholder who had a very different approach to slavery than Thomas Jefferson. Atiba?
So Jesse, thank you for that. And, in terms of from Robert Carter, and I don't know if the producers can pull up the picture of that I provided, but I want to talk a bit more too about Robert Carter, Thomas Jefferson, and why I brought up the 3/5 compromise. Because this is my James Reed, who was the son of Simeon Reed, and I'm hoping that we can show that first one, because Simeon was the one who was freed by, this is Simeon Reed. My mom was able to get this picture. One of her relatives was actually about to throw it away, and one of her cousins collected it and said, I think Joyce will know what to do with these. And so I'm showing these pictures because this puts a picture of a person who was enslaved, who became free. But when we are looking across the things in terms of the history of what has happened over the course of time, we don't talk enough about the 3/5 compromise, in my opinion. And why is it so consequential, Jesse? I believe it's consequential because the Constitution created the Electoral College to choose the president. And it still always goes back to population. And you've talked so much about redistricting. And part of what we're seeing today is still a power grab. It's still about continuing to hold on to power. And the Congress is still made out of a number of U.S. senators, it's a number of representatives in the House. So we know that every state gets 2 senators. But the number of House members has always been based on population. Now we go back to the 3/5 compromise. 3/5 of the enslaved population was included when determining a state's population. So if a state had 500,000 people living there, they got 300,000 because of the enslaved people, which meant that they had 800,000. And so when I'm mentioning this, because that enslaved population was increased and it helped those slaveholding states. And if you go back to Thomas Jefferson's election in 1800, some say he won that because in a very close race with him against John Adams, he won because the South and Virginia had more electoral votes because of slavery. So when we're in this picture that we're showing now is a picture of my great-great-grandparents and their children. And on the right is my great-grandfather. And I wanted to show this because they're the product of the freeing of the slaves of Simeon and his wife Jemima in 1800. And this picture was taken 106 years later in 1906 with property and land or what have you that's still in our family, but is a byproduct of what happened there. But they all still had to fight for their right to vote. And when we're talking about the issues that are going on today, one of the things that I'm hopeful about, and I want to put this out there, that there are more people, more African Americans that are going to vote because they're recognizing that their votes are being stripped from them. And it's unfortunate that this is the pathway that we have had to go when we think about where this administration, et cetera, is. But I don't believe that we really can really grasp, or that we will really grasp, the importance and the value of our vote until we start looking at the riots that have happened over the course of time. We often talk about Black Wall Street. There was Rosewood, there was Ocoee, there was Wilmington, and so many others. And in my own research, as I'm doing my reading and I'm reading about history, it still keeps going back to these folks who were trying to make sure that we, people who look like my family here, couldn't vote. So all of this, in terms of, if we keep talking about the power of the vote, I think it's also important for us to do some education to also talk about how and why we vote in November. Still based on an agrarian idea from the 1800s.
Well, let me comment on I think the question that goes to the heart. Why isn't the 3/5 taught as a fight over power? Because we teach it as a math problem about humanity. Black people count it as 3/5 of a person. That's the framing. However emotionally true that is, it's a little historically imprecise and politically disarming. Article 1, Section 2 was never meant as a statement about worth. It was a bargain over apportionment and direct taxation. Northern delegates wanted the enslaved counted at 0, precisely because counting them fed Southern power. Southern delegates wanted them counted in full. The Southerners had no problem with their slaves being counted as a full person. Nobody at the table proposed that a single one of them get the right to vote. But for apportionment purposes, the South had an interest in every slave being counted. Hence, 3/5 compromise. Of course, again, the Northern delegates wanted the enslaved counted at 0, precisely because counting them gave the South more congressmen and it gave them more mathematic numbers in the Congress and in the Senate. So problem is it's taught as an insult, and that insult produces grievance. If it's taught as an apportionment formula, it produces literacy. And the person and the student who understands it can read a redistricting map a lot clearer.
There you go.
Understand the question, they can read a redistricting map clearer. They then understand Robinson versus Calais differently, because we have to draw the lines in such a way as to give us our own voices on the floor of the Congress, because the history of the northern states, Constitutional Convention, wanting slaves to not be counted at all, And Southerners saying, because we want more power in Washington, we want them counted as a full person. But I tell you what, here's the compromise. We'll let you have 3/5 of a person. That becomes the compromise. It's not often associated with the North, but that's the reality. The South had no problem. They weren't going to give them the right to vote, but they wanted their fair share of federal taxes. They wanted their fair share of federal money. And they had to come up with a lot of people really quickly in order to get their fair share, given the industrial nature of the North. So the compromise, rather than a full person, but not an American citizen, the Southerners had no problem with counting slaves for that purpose. It would be the North that says, no, don't count them at all. You get less political power. You get less political representation in the Congress. The compromise, 3/5. We see that, and it's taught to us as an insult, and it produces grievance, understandably. But what it really is it's an apportionment formula. It produces literacy if it's taught right, and you understand exactly why you should be defending the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
And so with that said, Jesse, and this is why I love these conversations with you. So thank you very much for that. Because today someone would say, well, there is no more 3/5 compromise. There is no more slavery. We have our citizenship. We have the constitutional right to vote. But the basic constitutional architecture of that still exists. Population, House representation, electoral votes. It's still there.
So there's nothing we can do unless we amend the Constitution. But the more specific question I think you're getting at is, why aren't the 3/5 and the Electoral College taught together? And the answer to that is, I think, simple. Because teaching them together indicts the presidency itself. And the civics textbook is not built to do that. But the arithmetic is simple. Electors equal House seats plus 2. Inflate the House delegation and you inflate the electoral vote. How many electoral votes does it take to become a president of the United States? 270. It's not a popularity contest. It's an electoral count contest. And so if the 3/5 clause and the Electoral College were taught together, no president of the United States, the institution of the presidency itself, could not escape the indictment that the institution of the presidency itself is built upon the peculiar institution of slavery in the South. That the 270 electoral vote formula has taken these numbers into account, not only then, but also now, because slavery's over, but the same process of how congressmen and senators are apportioned by state has its roots in this problem.
So when I say things like asking people, let's work together to take your family members with you to go vote, to go and vote with your friends. I'm saying this because population translates into political power. The question becomes, who gets to exercise that power? And today, in some ways, the way that my mind works, I see it where we're still enslaved with this idea of my vote doesn't count. I don't have time. Because while population is still generating the number of seats that are in Congress, as they diminish and devalue and get us to devalue the power of our vote, how is that different than the slaveholding South, for instance, having more representation, but yet the men and women who were in the fields, who some people today want to call the workers, were not allowed to go and vote.
So
we do it not because of force. Now we do it because we can be apathetic, because some of us think our vote doesn't matter.
Let me respond in the final 2 minutes. Let me respond in the final 2 minutes that we have before we come forward. In 1800, and it's probably best that I respond with an example. Jefferson defeated John Adams with 73 electoral votes to 65. The 3/5 bonus supplied the slave states roughly a dozen electoral votes. Strip out those electoral votes, Jefferson is not president, John Adams is president. Jefferson owns slaves. John Adams has never owned a slave in his life and fought against slavery. Federalists in New England, they said it out loud. Timothy Pickering and others called Jefferson the Negro president, meaning he was seated by people who would never be free. Virginia slaveholders held the presidency for 32 of its first 36 years. The cause didn't just distort the House, it selected the executive through the executive and the court. And therefore, in the earliest elections within the Republic, you can see that electoral votes handed presidents the presidency of the United States. And that's true today, because you can win the popular vote with a handful of swing states and blue states in the North. But if you're not campaigning in Georgia, if you're not working your behind off in Florida, if you're not working in South Carolina and trying to turn a purple state or red state like North Carolina purple, you might not get to 270 under the same formula that was structured in the Electoral College. I know I've got about 30 seconds before I come forward, but I got to say this. And that leads me to a press conference I observed today with Reverend Al Sharpton and Benjamin Crump in Mississippi. If white Mississippians who are concerned about the death of Nolan Wells, and they themselves understand Mississippi justice better than any other group of people, and they are people of goodwill, people who don't have a problem and want their children to have a great time on July 4th and come back home. If they join African Americans in the November election, we can regain control of the Congress of the United States. And by regaining control of the Congress of the United States, we can issue subpoenas from Congress to hold people in Mississippi who may be, we don't know, obstructing a death investigation on federal land with Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House. These are all factors that are at play just in the Nolan Wells case, because the political consequences for that case will manifest themselves in less than 90 days. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More conversation with Atiba when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Miramar, Florida leaders are set to vote on whether to join Broward County's solid waste master plan.
And the amendment to continue Miramar's participation in the solid waste authority.
Black Mayor Wayne Messam supports opting in, saying it could strengthen the city's effort to block a proposed incinerator at the West landfill. David Crowley is one step closer to becoming Wisconsin's first Black governor after defeating State Representative Francesca Hong in Tuesday's Democratic primary. Crowley, who already made history as Milwaukee County's first Black executive, will face Republican Tom Tiffany in November. And prosecutors are expected to use Black singer David's online shopping history in the murder case against him. Authorities say David Anthony Burke bought items including chainsaws, cadaver bags, and shovels before allegedly using them to dispose of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A couple of side notes regarding the $12.5 billion purchase of the Lakers by Josh Kushner and Bob Iger. Kushner is the brother of Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Lakers owner Mark Walter is facing a federal investigation for alleged tax fraud involving two insurance companies that he owns. The investigation could be a factor in Walter's decision to sell the Lakers. The sale has to be approved by the NBA Board of Governors. The next owners meeting is in September in New York City. Russell Westbrook, one of the most productive and dynamic guards in NBA history, announced his retirement. The LA native played 11 of his 18 seasons with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Westbrook was a 9-time All-Star and holds the record for most career triple-doubles with 209. He also has the single-season record for triple-doubles with 42 in 2016 and 17, the year he was voted MVP. Westbrook will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer in 2031. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Ready for a weekend reset? Walk it out with me, Gina A. Towns, the artist formerly known as Gina Darby, on Reflectivity Beyond Black and White, as we seek peace, understanding, and healing beyond surface level perspectives, where reflectivity becomes our inner power and resilience to transform our lives and our communities no matter what. Meet me and my crazy cool guests. Join the Reflectivity family movement as we make sense of it all. Every bit, every morsel. We're going to nourish the mind, body, and soul unapologetically right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Every Saturday, 2 and 8 p.m. on the West Coast, 4 and 10 in the Midwest, and 5 and 11 on the East Coast. It's time for Reflectivity Beyond Black and White. It's not only hot, it's sizzling, and we're cooking.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
Roger and Tracy saved over $18,400. Cynthia was recovering from a family tragedy and saved over $10,300. If you are drowning in debt, then call Debt Blue. Debt Blue is a professional debt negotiation firm with over 20 years of experience helping people pay back a fraction of what they owe. Learn how to cut your debt up to half or maybe more. Be debt-free in 24 to 48 months, even with bad credit. With an A+ rating from the BBB, you can rest easy knowing Debt Blue is going to deliver guaranteed debt reduction. Debt Blue offers a success guarantee. You pay nothing unless your debt is reduced or completely resolved. That's right. You save money or it's free. Call now for significant debt relief and a free consultation. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879. You don't have to declare bankruptcy. This program works if you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in debt. Call for your free consultation today. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Thought Provoking Thursday, and therefore we are in conversation with Atiba, former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, Strategic Alliance Consultant, President of Party Politics US, and he's working his tail off to let people know that midterms effing matter, that our vote does matter, and we have to participate in the process. And listen, we'll go all the way back to 3/5 clause. We will go back to 1619. We will go back to Timbuktu to help change your thinking about why you need to be present in 2026 at the poll. We're going to go back and grab every argument we can find that a Negro can use as justification for not voting and do our very best to give them an answer. Atiba, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you, Jesse. It's good to be
Appreciate
here.
you, brother. Where are we now in our conversation?
So, let's talk about representation. I'm laughing because you said Timbuktu. Just a quick sidebar. My father, we lived in West Africa for 2 years when I was a kid. And my father drove from Bamako, Mali to Timbuktu and rolled his Land Rover that he was in, rolled over a thorn bush that was, imagine a thorn bush in the desert that had to be so strong that it could puncture one of those old school Land Rovers. And and he took sand that still sits on my parents' mantelpiece from Timbuktu. So whenever I hear Timbuktu, I think about the sand that almost 50 years later is sitting on top of the mantle of my parents' home. That, and the product, you could think about a whole lot of things that it could have happened in the desert. But I mentioned that too, because the road, Stony, the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. Last week, I believe you were talking about the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And when I think about the road that we have taken to get to this place of voting, and I think about the conversations that I had with the late, great Congressman John Lewis, and then I'm looking at my own family history, I cannot be quiet about the idea and the fact that numbers matter. Every 10 years, and I've worked on the census. I remember years ago working on the census, and the census comes down to numbers, comes down to representation, congressional apportionment, redistricting. You've been talking so well about gerrymandering and the Voting Rights Act. I'm mentioning now the Electoral College because all of this continues to translate to, in my opinion, how, because of the trauma of our past, too often we are letting go of our power because we haven't been taught the 3/5 compromise. We haven't been taught about how representative government works in this. And so how does this relate to Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026, in an election where we're not electing a president, but what we are doing is electing the entire House of Representatives and about 1/3 of the United States Senate? But that's not all. There are those down ballot races. I mean, you mentioned Nolan Wells and you mentioned his family, and there have been countless people who continue to send me, and it's unfortunate, like when I keep hearing these stories about lynchings, people hanging from trees, their family members saying there's no way that they did that. Well, if you go and vote on your ballots, in some of your areas, it's going to be city council, mayor, sheriff, judges, and your votes, your power of your vote can help to determine which way and which direction your city, your state, and this country goes in the next 2 years. Because I can guarantee you that if it continues to go the way that we've seen these last 2 years, if you think it was hot, if you think it's difficult now, it's going to be more difficult. And the only way that we're going to get out of this is if we find ways not just to think about our community, but to think about America as a whole and how we fit into that. So, our votes determine the future.
I released a report on my Facebook page today called The Pattern. The Pattern. It is a 21-page indictment on the pattern that Donald Trump has used to disenfranchise voters, starting with the looking for 11,780 votes. It's 21 pages. It's right there. Please share it on my Facebook page. Just go down a few posts because I posted on top of it, and people will find it. And there is a pattern, and I'm going to opine on it next week because I think we need to understand the pattern going into November. So if I can frame the question a little tighter, are we still asking who gets counted, represented, and empowered? We are asking it in the same order with the same instruments, and the clearest living descendant of the 3/5 principle is prison gerrymandering. Incarcerated people are counted by census where they are held, not where they are from. And in most states, they cannot vote there. Their bodies build state representative districts.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Do they do the same thing with college students? Because there's some states that make it difficult for college students to vote.
Increasingly, we have seen some states push back on in-state residents and college students on campuses, including but not limited to, there are nearly 20,000 people, for example, students at North Carolina A&T State University. All of them are of the age to vote. And the city of Greensboro has been resistant to allow them to have a polling place on campus. 20,000 students. In some local elections, including the mayoral election, that's the balance. And some of those students who would be voting locally, if they registered locally, would be from New York. They'd be from Florida. They'd be from Atlanta, Georgia. They'd be from Washington. We had a Washington, D.C. crew at A&T when I was there. So the Washington, D.C. crew is still there. The Baltimore crew, the New York crew, they all still there at A&T. And one of my challenges as a student leader when I was in college between 84 and 87 was to get the students, and everyone who can hear my voice right now, to get students who are now going back to college this week. I'm dropping my son off on Monday, Morehouse College, going back to school this week, to get them to register in their dorm, to register where they live, and according to the Voting Rights Act, according to the standard voting procedures in this country, you live wherever you spent the last 3 nights in a row to register and vote on those college campuses, in part because you're not going back to New York to vote. You're not going back to Atlanta to vote. You're not going to at DC or to New York to vote. Negro, you live in Cooper Hall. That's your mama done got rid of you. Your daddy done put you out. You are in college now. You registered to vote where you spent the last 3 nights in a row, and the only address you got is the dorm that you're in. And if they register at A&T or at Central or at Howard University, you end up with a very large voting block that can determine the outcome of state elections. And the HBCUs really provide that major function. Reverend Jackson saw that in 1984 and 1988. But I want to go back to this prison thing for just a moment, if I might. So because prisoners in rural prisons are counted for where they live. Oh, I guess I've run out of time. I'm Jesse Jackson. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, more conversation with Atiba. Sorry about that.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
I heard that this brother is MIA, but I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Marquise Dawson. It's his district. He has an office in the back of Crenshaw Destination. I have not seen this brother one time in my life. On TV, yes. Newspapers, yes. And all that other stuff. But to come across the street and talk to people, or even next door to talk to people, I haven't seen this brother ever. The people who are doing the construction, and my count is 21 months. You'll let me know if I'm wrong or how long it's been abandoned. I'm calling it abandoned construction. And I've emailed a lot of people from the city, and they always gave me a date that it'll be done this day, it'll be done that day. But next door to us is the people who actually are doing the construction. Those are my next door neighbors. That's how I know what's going on. They haven't been there for 21 months.
Not letting them get away with anything. We're KBLA, Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. The midterm election campaign season is here now. The 2028 presidential election is right around the corner. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. It's all in for 2026 and 2028. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jackson Jr. Show. King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA, Talk 1580.
It's Thought Provoking Thursday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. and welcome forward to KBLA Talk 1580. We're in conversations with Atiba in the next hour. Johnny Mack, social entrepreneur and scholar practitioner with an expertise in subject areas of peace, conflict, and social change, will be our guest, our regular contributor. Atiba has brought forward a very thought-provoking conversation about voting, about some of the obstacles that may resist or exist in the recesses of our minds. Something to give up on America one more time. Why we not gonna vote? Why we can't stand the man? Why we can't all this and all that? We're working through every one of them as best we possibly can to give you a little bit of hope and let you know that all is not lost. Atiba, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks, Jesse. It's great to be here.
Atiba, how can we support your work?
So if you go to midtermseffingmatter.com, you can register to vote, check your voting registration status, see what's on your ballot. That's so important. Please know what's on your ballot before you go. Check who the candidates are and make sure that those candidates fit not just D and R, but fit and like that their platforms, what they intend to do are aligned with your values. And you can also find out where your polling place is. Did your polling place change? These are things that are so important. And then make sure, please, just go with other people to vote. We don't know what it's going to be like on election day. What we do know is that we have to vote in numbers too large to manipulate the outcome. We saw yesterday or Tuesday in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin primary, Democratic primary, was determined by 3,000 votes. You mentioned earlier, Jesse, about what happened in Georgia during the 2020 election, 11,800 votes. You think about Pennsylvania, I think it was 22,000 votes. So our votes matter. Our votes matter, and we have to vote in numbers too large to manipulate the outcome.
I appreciate that, Atiba, and thank you very much for that contribution. I do want to finish this point about incarcerated people being counted for the census where they are held, not where they are from, and in most states they cannot vote there. So imagine putting a prison with 5,000 or 6,000 inmates, that's just a speculation, in a community where there are only 800 people. The census doesn't owe 800 people a whole bunch of roads or streetlights or their fair share, they might argue, of tax dollars. But what the prison does is it takes a population of 800 people, and if the prison is 5,000 people, it is now a community of 5,800 people for the purposes of apportionment and for the purposes of receiving tax revenue. The 800 people cannot receive tax revenue the size that the prison brings to it, but the 5,000 prisoners cannot vote. There's no polling place. In fact, 5,000 people in a town of 800 could elect their own mayor from the prison and their own city council from the prison. So they're disenfranchised, but not in terms of how much money. And hence the incentive is to send more people to prison, because in these rural communities, they count on full prisons for them to get their fair share of federal dollars. Now, I want to just close my point on this and leave time for Atiba to have his word of hope. Does history repeat because we don't know it? History doesn't repeat because we forgot it. It repeats because the architecture survived the memory. The 13th Amendment ended slavery. It did not end the incentive to convert unrepresented bodies into represented power. That incentive was engineered into Article 1 in 1787, and no amendment has ever removed that engine, only its first fuel. That's why when the calendar when we vote, even that's a fossil. The Act of January 23rd, 1845, fixed the Tuesday after first Monday in November because the country was agricultural. After the harvest, before the roads froze, Sunday reserved for worship, Monday for the wagon ride to the county seat, Wednesday to the market, November 3rd, 2026, an electorate of nurses on 12-hour shifts and warehouse workers on rotating schedules will vote on a farmer's schedule from the Polk administration. Nobody chose that and nobody repealed it either. We're on a farmer's schedule when we vote on Tuesday in November. because we didn't repeal the architecture from the agrarian South and their way of life. There's no reason why we can't vote on Saturdays or on Sundays where more people can participate in the process, except that the architecture has become a behavior. Atiba, the final two words. A word of hope.
Or during the summertime. When people have more time, more daylight hours, but all those things. Thank you so much for that, Jesse. And for another, again, hopefully I say this, but I want to say how much I appreciate our conversations every Thursday, and I'm hopeful that what we are doing and what we are saying that it helps, because there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of people who are worried about, what the future looks like. But let's remember that the history is important, because if we don't know it, it will repeat itself. But history is our past. Our vote is our future. It is how we will determine what happens next. So please go out and vote in numbers too large to manipulate the outcome.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We've been in conversation with Atiba on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's been Thought-Provoking Thursdays, one of our best Thought-Provoking Thursdays, and something that really matters, the franchise and our participation. Don't give up. Keep hope alive. Let's vote. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA with Johnny Mack when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Miramar, Florida leaders are set to vote on whether to join Broward County's solid waste master plan.
And the amendment to continue Miramar's participation in the Solid Waste Authority.
Black Mayor Wayne Messam supports opting in, saying it could strengthen the city's effort to block a proposed incinerator at the West landfill. David Crowley is one step closer to becoming Wisconsin's first Black governor after defeating State Representative Francesca Hong in Tuesday's Democratic primary. Crowley, who already made history as Milwaukee County's first Black executive, will face Republican Tom Tiffany in November. And prosecutors are expected to use Black singer David's online shopping history in the murder case against him. Authorities say David Anthony Burke bought items including chainsaws, cadaver bags, and shovels before allegedly using them to dispose of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A couple of side notes regarding the $12.5 billion purchase of the Lakers by Josh Kushner and Bob Iger. Kushner is the brother of Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Lakers owner Mark Walter is facing a federal investigation for alleged tax fraud involving two insurance companies that he owns. The investigation could be a factor in Walter's decision to sell the Lakers. The sale has to be approved by the NBA Board of Governors. The next owners meeting is in September in New York City. Russell Westbrook, one of the most productive and dynamic guards in NBA history, announced his retirement. The LA native played 11 of his 18 seasons with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Westbrook was a 9-time All-Star and holds the record for most career triple-doubles with 209. He also has the single-season record for triple-doubles with 42 in 2016 and 17, the year he was voted MVP. Westbrook will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer in 2031. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. August 5, 2026. Dear LA City Council President Marquise Harris Dawson, on behalf of a coalition of businesses and residents that constitute the Crenshaw Corridor community, we write to request that a concrete timeline and resources for fully completing Destination Crenshaw within a year be developed and announced. A year is the outside time it should take. We hope and expect that it can be finished considerably sooner. We also request the immediate establishment of a business interruption relief fund for the merchants, entrepreneurs, churches and property owners who have borne the disproportionate economic burden of the prolonged delays associated with the Destination Crenshaw project, and a resident relief fund for the residents of the corridor who have been most adversely affected by the prolonged construction and delays associated with this unfinished development. Destination Crenshaw was presented to this community as a transformational investment in Black culture, Black commerce, and the future of South Los Angeles. It has now been 6 years since the project broke ground and over 2 years since the promised completion date. Construction has stalled with no apparent end date in sight. The Crenshaw Corridor community embraced the vision of Destination Crenshaw, but the obstruction from the delayed construction has caused prolonged health and safety hazards, uncertainty, reduced customer access, declining revenues, disruptions, and mounting financial hardship. A broad spectrum of the community expressed their frustration over these delays and the impact they have had on the community at a standing room only July 30th town hall at Bethesda Temple Church, widely covered by the media, including ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. The burden of these unexplained delays should not rest on the shoulders of the Crenshaw Corridor community, which acted in good faith and supported this historic project. If the city fails to provide a complete and substantive response to this correspondence within 30 days of the date of this letter, the Crenshaw Corridor community reserves its right to pursue all of its rights and remedies. Sincerely, the Crenshaw Corridor community. To read the complete letter detailing all of our demands, go to our website at KBLA1580.com. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is Thought-Provoking Thursdays. Now we are in the World House. We are moving to the World House with Johnny Mack. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the U.S. civil rights movement. He explicates Dr. King's logic of nonviolence using King's call to restructure the social edifice, and particularly its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism, with a revolution of values that is effected through peaceable power. Dr. Mack, welcome forward
Jesse,
to the show.
Thank you.
Johnny, it's always a pleasure to be with you. I want to, since we have just about 4 minutes before we come forward, begin this segment of our show with an arresting little story. Dr. King called it, in the World House chapter of his book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? He reminds us of our familiarity as young people, as children, with an amazing story told by Washington Irving. The story of Rip Van Winkle. And I never really developed an appreciation of that story when I was young. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to the details that Martin Luther King Jr. was able to provide us in his interpretation of the story. But I do believe that without Dr. King's interpretation of the story, almost every single reader of the story has missed something profound, because we are left eternally with the idea that an old man or a medium-aged man went up the hill and fell asleep. He came back down, an old man, and he was confused. Dr. King has some other symbols in the story that matter to this hour's program. Dr. King sets the stage for, I believe it was the American Revolution at the beginning of that chapter. And that Rip Van Winkle had his musket. This matters because Rip Van Winkle was looking for somebody to shoot when he went up that hill and fell into his peaceful slumber. And Rip Van Winkle used to hang around in the local tavern at the bottom of the hill with all of his boys when I guess he had been called to duty along with the other people in the community. When Rip went up the hill to fulfill his responsibility to the militia, that word matters, Rip fell asleep. When Rip woke up 20 years later, he came down the hill. But before he went up the hill, hanging outside of the bar was a picture of King George III. That was the political context that Rip Van Winkle went up the hill. But when he came back down the hill, there was a picture hanging in the same place King George III's picture was hanging, and it was a picture of George Washington. Dr. King posits the theory that when Rip Van Winkle went up the hill, he didn't just go up the hill and sleep, but that he slept through a revolution. That the whole world had changed. We had gone from a monarchy to a republic to having bills of rights, a Bill of Rights when Rip Van Winkle woke up. His gun was still sitting next to the tree where he left it. His dog, who fell asleep next to him, was dead and gone. He came back down the hill looking for his wife. She was gone. Everybody in the community wondered whatever became of the old people, wondered whatever became of old Rip Van Winkle. It wasn't just that he went up there and went to sleep, but that he slept through a revolution. And a revolution, Dr. King argued, that made the case that he did not know where he was. Not only did he not know where he was when he woke up, he did not know who he was when he woke up. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're going to be talking about staying awake through a revolution, not just where you are, but who are you when you wake up in the midst of the turmoil that our nation finds itself in. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come back on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
Women's Leadership Project is a Black feminist mentoring, civic engagement, and advocacy program. We have rallied, marched, and disrupted in front of the unaccountable Marquise Harris Dawson's office for several years now. We have gone down to City Council and City Hall and spoken truth to power to try and get resources and protection and funding for Black girls and Black women in the city who are only 4.3% of the population in this community, yet we are disproportionately victimized by sex trafficking, sex violence, domestic violence, and intimate partner violence. We have met numerous times with the unaccountable MIA trifling Marquise and his deputies, and he has turned tail and run. We have tried to meet and give a proposal to Destination Crenshaw to step up and hold space and provide protections for our youth in the Crenshaw district area, because there are no safe youth spaces in City Council District 8 in the Crenshaw corridor.
Holding them accountable. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay, are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive. Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me.